Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 2021 Ontario Coaches Conference. My name is Greg Henhock, Mohawk of the Bear Clan from Six Nations of the Grand River. On behalf of the Coaches Association of Ontario and the Board of Directors, I'm excited to be here today to welcome everyone to this evening's kickoff session of OCC21. As we gather from the traditional territory and homelands of many nations, we would like to acknowledge that this event is being hosted from the traditional territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples. We hope everyone are staying safe and healthy during these challenging times. And while we may not be able to meet in person this year, we are thrilled to be partnering with the Canadian Sport Institute of Ontario for this year's virtual event. It will be an inspiring 8 days of learning, growth, and development for over 1,500 registered coaches from across Ontario and Canada. We wish to give a big thank you to the Government of Ontario for their unwavering support and recognition of the incredible time and work that each of you contribute to your athletes and communities across our province. Coaches make a big difference in this world, and we are extremely grateful for a partner in the Government of Ontario who values the commitment, dedication, and effort coaches play in strengthening their communities and empowering the leaders of tomorrow. Tonight's session, we are honored to bring to you one of the longest serving soccer players in Canadian history, a career that spanned 18 years, including 5 FIFA World Cups and 2 Olympic Games, including the infamous 2012 Olympic bronze medal for Team Canada at the London Games. Since 2018, she has been head of women's football for CONCACAF and its 41 countries. She is also a Unicef ambassador, a FIFA legend, and an honorary captain of the Royal Canadian Navy. Please welcome Karina LeBlanc. Over to you, Karina.
When I was 4 years old, I remember watching the Olympics, and it was like this close to me on the television. And I didn't want to get away. My mom and dad were like, get away from the TV, it's too close, you know? And I remember just being mesmerized, and I knew at that time I wanted to be there. One of my greatest moments would be Olympic qualifiers playing in Vancouver in January when we played against Mexico. And I was looking up, and usually during the national anthem, I'm singing it loud and proud. And I was doing it, and for a moment I stopped just to take that moment in, to hear the country singing the national anthem for us, because they believed in us. When you are inspired by something bigger than what you think, then there are no limitations. Good afternoon. I moved to Canada when I was 8, and I was young, and I was confused, and I was lost. Sport changed everything for me. It gave me confidence. It started making me believe in who I was. I was that child that was too far. I was the quiet child. I was the child that nobody paid attention to.
Don't wait for others to tell you that you are good enough.
You are anything you dream. But I need you to believe in yourself.
1, 2, 3.
After getting home from the hospital, I noticed some shortness of breath and just some weird things going on with my body. Called my doctor after a couple of days, and it turned out I had pleural effusion from heart failure, which thank God we went to the hospital. But because I was in hospital for 2 additional nights, there was a COVID-19 passing, and I could not have had exposure. So I'm home now, but self-quarantined in a room where I'm separated from Paris and my husband, so I can't hold her, touch her, put her down for bed at night, which is really difficult for a mom who's just given birth.
I love you. I love you so much, Paris.
We're together again.
Well, hello everyone. We're here with you tonight live. It is her 1-year birthday, so we thought it'd be fitting, and this is also her bedtime, to speak with you tonight and say hello, because most importantly, and she's picking her nose, it was really important for me to be here with you tonight. So say hi, Paris. You gonna say bye? Happy birthday. The world is telling you happy birthday? All right, there you go. So a little bit about me. It's a bit emotional to talk with you here today, but it was so important for me to come and have this conversation with the caretakers of children's dreams, because for me, when I was asked to do this opportunity, it was one of the things where I was like, I want to go towards it. I want to go towards this on a day that I knew was going to be a bit emotional for me, but most importantly, to let you see me raw and true and honest. This is me, the shy kid I grew up in the Caribbean. Nobody ever believes that I was shy because I'm so loud these days, but I was the shyest kid in the world, and sports changed me. That's my first team I played for. I was holding the ball at the time. I wasn't quite the goalkeeper that I would turn out to be, but I went from the kid that nobody could talk to, the kid that would just hang on to my mom, into being this loud kid that at school, when they asked, what is your big dream? I'd be the first one to put my hand up and say, I want to be an Olympian, which was a bit crazy. And I told the world my dreams. I told anybody who asked me what I wanted to be. And then the next thing happened. I remember going to our U15 team and being in the van with all my friends and everybody excited to go. And at the end of the day, the list came up It was for the BC team, U15. And the list came up, and I was the only one not on that list. And I remember being in the car crying, and my mom was like, "It's okay, I love you, I love you." And my dad was just like, "Rrr." And it's funny, FIFA did a little spotlight on this where they called me one of the superheroes of the last World Cup. And my dad looked just like that. And here he was like, "Rrr." And I was like, "Why are you crying with me, Dad? My life's changed, it's over, I'm 14 years old, and I just got cut." And I'll never forget it. He turned to me and he said, "What are you going to do about it?" And being cut from that team was the best thing that ever happened to me, because the next year I did 15 minutes more every single day, either before practice or after practice. And the next year when I went and tried out, the coach was there with his big belly, and he was like, "Ho, ho, ho." And no, he wasn't Santa Claus, but to me, he had this big gray beard and this belly. And he said, "LeBlanc, you've come to try out again." I said, "No, you told me I wasn't what you were looking for." And because I'd done the work and I had the confidence, I tried out for a year older. And about a year later, got called into the senior national team. A powerful lesson, but something so important. Why I wanted to tell you this story today, and most importantly, I hope today that by listening to me and hearing me, I'm in your homes, or maybe some of you in your offices, but you're in your safe place, that you not only hear my story, but you feel it and you see yourself in it, because that's why I wanted to come here today. My daughter's 1-year-old birthday. On this evening, I'm here with you. So I take that personally, but I don't want you to sit here and be like, "Great story, Karina, woo," and move on. I want you to personalize it. And that 15-minute more that I just told you at a young age, that I got the concept of getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, I challenge you. What if you put 15 minutes more every single day into being the best person you can be? Imagine that. Maybe it's 15 minutes less Instagram time. Maybe it's 15 minutes more with your child. Maybe it's 15 minutes more with yourself. Maybe it's 15 minutes more. It's not that long, but if you do it every single day, you probably will find the Olympic self in you. I'm a firm believer coaches are leaders, but most importantly, you are the caretakers of dreams. Today, I wanted to be here to remind you that who I am today is because of people like you. People like you who are committed. People like you who don't even know the roles that they may own in people's lives. I was blessed. I was blessed to have a family and role models as parents. But we all know a lot of kids don't. We all know a lot of adults don't have that surrounding system to encourage them and empower them and help them understand the greatness they have inside of them. So today I want to remind you the greatness that you have inside of you, but I want to remind you that the role that you play and what you own. And this week is going to be a fantastic week. I've heard the lineups. I've heard about the sciencey things. I've heard about the inspiring things. I've heard about the technical things. But if you take this week and you say, "Whoa, that was fun," and you walk away and you don't actually apply it, then you're wasting your time and all of our time. I wanted to tell you a bit about our national team. And of all the stories, I got a chance to play for our beautiful country and represent the people like you for almost 18 years. Best job in the world, hands down. But I'll tell you the story of when it was probably rocked me to the core. 2011, World Cup in Germany. We were supposed to finish top. We gave up our lives. We gave up contracts. We'd sacrificed time with our families. We lived in Rome. And now that I'm retired, it wasn't that kind of Rome. It wasn't the wine and cheese that last time I was in Italy I enjoyed. It was a hotel far out of the city. It was hotel rooms for months. It was training day in and day out. We were disconnected. I don't know if this is driving something home here, but when you have a disconnected team, it's pretty hard to accomplish big dreams. And although we gave up everything, the disconnection led us to not only coming last in our group, but coming dead last in the World Cup. And you'll see that picture right ahead. myself and Sophie Schmidt. We were broken. I remember walking off the field, reporters saying, how's it feel to let your country down? Imagine that. In your worst moment, you're given a mic and a camera to be answered and be honest. I wasn't honest, but I'll tell you, I went traveling in Europe. I was too embarrassed to come home because, at the time we felt we let the country down. And then came in John Herdman, new leadership. And I'll never forget it. He brought us in and he sat us in a circle and he asked us our why. And I put this up because it's so important that you ask yourself your why. Today, we've just gone through a year of pandemic, isolation, uncomfortableness. And this is the time to ask yourself, why am I here on this earth? Some people have never even asked themselves that question. But before we get into the team, I want to ask you, why are you here on this earth? What do you uniquely bring to this earth that no one else does? What greatness do you have inside of you? Because the truth is, as you'll see on this great graph, the world lives in a place that you don't necessarily belong to. The world lives in a place of average where people get up, go to work, come home, or as we are, stay home. Turn off close the computer, watch TV, and every day it's the same thing. But if you know your why, every day isn't the same thing. Every day is driven by a purpose. Every day is driven by a reason. And I put this up there because when John Herdman asked us our why, we were broken. As a lot of people during this pandemic. Raise your hand if you're a bit broken. You're at home. No one's seen you. I'm only the lucky one that people get to see. But when you're broken and someone says, why are you here on this earth? That's a hard answer. And for me, usually I'd be like, to inspire the next generation or get the kids to enjoy the sport but I didn't have the answer. And I remember he brought us together and there was 4 of us at the time and he brought us together and he's like, hey, do you guys think you're leaders? And for me, I'd been on the team 13, 14 years. I'm like, I'm totally a leader. Absolutely. I remember John said, this is a leaderless team. Never forget it. It's for my teammates. We have a company called IS4 and we laugh about this at this time. Leaderless? Who are you? But he was right. And he took us on a journey to identify the leadership that we had within. Because not everyone is the same type of leader. I may be rah-rah. Christine Sinclair is not the rah-rah. She's not going to get up in front of a crowd and be like, let's go. But we all have our roles. And once we were able to identify who we were in this, we went together as a group to understand our why as a team. And at that Olympics, our purpose was different from my first Olympics. The first Olympics, let's go to win a medal. Woo! We got lots of pictures, no medal. This Olympics, let's go to inspire a generation. And again, I put this out there because when you know your why, when you know your true north, when you're able to answer these questions, like what is the legacy that you want to leave on this earth? And don't think that legacy is attached to teams or people with names. Legacy is attached to you. Purpose is attached to you. Your why is attached to you. Don't listen to the world that tells you you're not good enough. Don't listen to the people whose dreams have been robbed from them, so they want to put that as your reality. So when we decided that we knew our true north, we knew our purpose, which was to inspire the next generation, every single day, we made sure we acted that way, whether people were watching or not. And to this day, I still can't spit out gum. I remember John saying, hey, a great Canadian, what is a great Canadian? A great Canadian is the same way, whether they're watching or not. I've gotten to travel the world, and we are from a country that is a great country. So the examples we wanted to be was that of a great Canadian. So every single day, we did the actions of a great Canadian. In this day and time, there's a lot of question about what a great Canadian looks like. Are you a great Canadian? If you're not, It's time to get back on your true north. And if you're leading a team, it's time to put them back on the true north. Because it's you who gets to shape them. It's you who gets to guide them. It's you who gets to lead them. But you have to know who you are first before you can lead others. And it doesn't have to be a longed out process. It's the time, it's the silence that we live in these days. The silence of being home. The silence of asking yourself the hard questions. The silence of remembering why you were put on this earth to do great things. Your influence could be 1. Your influence could be 100. Who cares? When you start to realize and you start to sit, and I'm saying this to you tonight, March 23rd, a year has gone by where life has changed and we've had to learn to adapt and live in the uncomfortable. I'm asking you tonight, do you know your why? Do you know your purpose? Do you know your legacy? I challenge you to answer that question and not listen to the old version of you or listen and think the reflection of you has been on just what's happened. You've lived a life towards greatness, and that's what you deserve. I wanted to put up this picture and tell this story about the great Christine Sinclair. But in London 2012, when we won the bronze medal, and if it's at the chat or whatever, I hope you guys want me to go towards this because I'm looking at the time and I'm like, okay, can I go into this story? Can I not? But I know Canadians love this story. And I hope there's not too many Americans watching because right now you can go have a bathroom break if you want, or do whatever you want to do. Because I want to talk about this game. And some of you may or may not know it. And by the way, some of you, I hope all of you, know who's in this picture. If you don't, Google the words Christine Sinclair, all-time leading scorer in the world, incredible human being, captain of Team Canada, but most importantly, Canada versus USA. This is at Old Trafford Stadium. Now, every kid, at least my age, I won't age myself, they didn't have as much soccer and TV back then. We would watch Soccer Saturday and watch the Manchester United games on TV. So for me as a young girl, I had this dream that one day, I'd be able to go to the game and watch a game played. So imagine this is the Olympics. Imagine you're on the bus being escorted by police. And all of a sudden the traffic is parting and you're trying to stay focused. You got your headphones in, you're like, yeah, but you're looking and you're like, oh my God, here comes the, look at the traffic, look at them pull over, look at them, you're waving at people, but again, you're staying focused. And then you pull into Old Trafford. Not only do you just pull in, you actually go down underneath where your heroes and legends have been. For me, I was a goalkeeper, so we're talking about Peter Schmeichel. For those of you, Eric Cantona, David Beckham, Ronaldo, you just name it, they played in the stadium. And you walk the halls of your heroes. And here you are to go to the gold medal match. Guess who you're playing? Your big brother who always beats you, the Americans. Absolutely, here we go. They beat us every single time. We've had success, few, but just about every time. It'll be the 70th minute, they find a way. And here we go to the Old Trafford game. And I use Christine Sinclair because if you watch that game, this girl put the team on her back and played the game of her life. We score. They score. And on TV, you guys are seeing the expressions. I remember this is actually after one of her goals. But what you're not seeing is the tension between the coaches. John and the coach, just join the place. This is a heated game. We score again. They come back. We score. We're up. We're up against Americans. We feel this is the opportunity. This is the moment. Because you know what we just lost in 2011? We just come from rock bottom. We put everything in, and this is the moment. This is the time we're going to beat the Americans. This is it. And to go to the gold medal match, amazing. And then, won't talk about, I love referees, I love calls, I love everything, but there's a call. And then there's another call. And then just like that, the US scored. And we lose. And if you remember this last slide here, what was our purpose? What was our goal? Well, that ended up being the reason why we won bronze. Because that night, we cried in the locker room. I remember Sinclair spoke. She doesn't always speak, and she said, I've never been so proud to be Canadian. And the biggest moment for us, she rose even higher to say some words. I remember the drive was everyone was crying. John Herdman didn't even talk to us that night because he was broken too. You know what? As coaches, you're allowed to be broken too. The next morning, the staff put together this video, starting with the Prime Minister. Then we saw young girls jumping up and down and girls crying. And we saw adults jumping up and down, adults crying. And it wasn't just women, it was men. Bars were packed. And all of a sudden, we realized that we couldn't let Canada down. And the reason why we'd gone, the reason why we'd added to our why, the purpose, the legacy, all of that was actually right in front of us. If you watch that game, bronze medal match, we played France. They dominated, post, save. Like, it was their game. And I remember our teammates saying, you know what? And this was after the fact. She did a slide tackle. She's like, I got nothing left in me. But then she looked up. She saw Reen Wilkinson doing that doggy. For those of you, a doggy is like a longer sprint. And yeah, that's what it took. Because as France held their head and hung low and said, oh my God, how are we not winning? You had a group of women who were inspired by inspiring the next generation, who were committed to living their true north, who were committed to the legacy that we'd set, who were committed to her why. I remember when Diana Matheson put the ball in the back of the net. I'm getting emotional, I'm getting goosebumps. Because that game was all about heart. And she went like this. You guys remember? Just like John Herdman had said, there's two types of people who get to wear that flag in their heart for a job. Those that protect the country, which is the Navy and the military. And I'll tell you, me being named honorary captain of the Navy was one of the highest honors of my life because I know what these people go through to protect our country. And the other type of people are those who inspire the country. And he took us through that understanding to understand how to inspire, you must follow those who are protected. Now, on that day when she did this, it was because the people that we went to inspire actually inspired us. You inspired us to win that medal. And so I say this very, very, very honestly. Sometimes our greatest victory comes through defeat. Fast forwarding to John Herdman, a great leader. Again, I'm telling stories because you're the coaches in this room. You are the leaders in this room. You're the caretakers of our dreams and our whys. I remember after the medal, he pulled me aside and he said, if you think your purpose on this earth is to kick a soccer ball for Canada, then I failed you. And I was like, what? What are you talking about? I know my purpose. I'm doing this. But it would lead me to this. I flew to Honduras, my first trip with Unicef. And for those of you who don't know, Unicef is the biggest charity in the world for children. And it was my first trip to Honduras. I've had a couple trips, as you may see. And here I am, I get out of the plane and I get put in a small room. I'm like, what are we doing? Today we've had 44 deaths in the city. There'll be guns and everything. And I'm like, I'm from Canada. I'm from BC. Guns? What are you talking about? And they had all these things for me to do. But I did this one camp. 13 and 14-year-old girls came out, putting down their babies. Because you only know what you know. And here I am. They'd never seen me play in a World Cup, an Olympics, but I showed up. And in life, it's about showing up. You know what that's like. That's why you're here tonight. You showed up. You made a choice. But I showed up for these girls, and here I am jumping up and down on this dirt gravel road where you and I would be like, let's talk. And here they are, and I'm like, what am I going to do with these girls? So I put down a soccer ball, and everyone's running around, and immediately I noticed 5 gray jerseys. They had little holes in them, but I was like, And the organizer came up to me and said, Miss LeBlanc, what's wrong? What? Because they could tell I was a little off. I said, where'd you get these gray jerseys? So they went and got the person, and he said, it came from a Canadian years ago. We've used them as our team jerseys. Is there a problem? Those 5 gray jerseys, the club, I'm in the middle of Honduras, in the middle of the country. These girls are wearing the 5 gray jerseys of the first ever club I played for growing up in Maple Ridge, BC. Honduras, Canada. All I knew in that moment was I was doing exactly what I was meant to be doing, and I was living my life and my purpose and my why. 2015 came and we hosted the World Cup, the biggest than ever. As you can see here, it didn't go the way we wanted it to. We didn't win a World Cup. Remember Christine Sinclair and that, and somebody caught that moment. And think about it, if you've played for your country for 18 years, and to me, greatest player of all time, turns to me and said, you've made me a better woman. I remember in that moment, someone caught that. Sports isn't about the wins and losses, as you all know. It's about the people that you help create, the people you help meet, the people that define you. And when I retired, athletes call that the first death. Because all of a sudden, I didn't know who I was. I couldn't shake my hand and say, I play for Canada. I was Karina LeBlanc, period. And trying to redefine that and make meaning of that was a tough period. But I always knew my why. I always knew I wanted to impact people. And I had a responsibility to give back to the game. And it led to this. Head of women's football for CONCACAF. 41 countries, 41 realities. It took leadership of Victor Montagliani, who was our old president of Canada Soccer, Philippe Maggio, who's the general secretary, to take a leap of faith and trust me, a woman of color, who'd had 18 years of playing experience, who'd spent a couple years learning and growing. And they picked me to lead. To say it was intimidating? Yeah, it was. What did I know? But then I realized that if I'm living my purpose and I'm living my why and I keep my passion, maybe I was onto something. We came up with our strategy in 2019. We presented it to the world. UEFA was the only other confederation to do it, with our objectives of changing perceptions, building sustainable foundations, and increasing participation. At the core of it, though, it was improving lives through football. I put this picture up there because, again, my job every single day is different. We've just launched a whole new ecosystem where we're going to double the amount of games played in countries. We're going to allow girls to have games in their whole countries. Most of our countries, in our 41 countries, had not ever hosted a home game. You need to see it to believe it. Every single day is different, but every single day I wake up and I'm passionate about what I do. I love what I do. Because at the end of the day, through sport, we get to change lives. And then the best thing that's ever happened to me happened. You saw the video. I won't go into it because I'll start crying. But that's the moment. That's the moment that I got to hold my daughter again. Imagine this. You give birth to a child. Within a week, I'm racing to the hospital because the doctor told me I didn't have time for an ambulance to come. She's holding my finger. And I'm crying. I said my goodbye speech to my husband. I thought life was done. I couldn't even breathe. And then, finally, they tell me I can go home, but unfortunately, the head of the ER, remember this is right at the beginning of the pandemic, okay? So this is a year ago, has contacted the virus and has died. So you get to go home because you're at risk, but you got to spend 2 weeks away from your daughter. To say that was the hardest thing is an understatement. I'll never forget that moment that you see right there, me getting to hold her, because I felt I had a new life. And that's where we all are today. We have a new life. We will get through this. we will get through this pandemic. Because I'll tell you, the three things I learned most was to make sure that I lived a life of purpose, creating moments and memories that matter. That matter. If you're here today, you have access to doing a job that matters. You get to be the hope for someone. You get to be the hero for someone. You get to be that voice for someone. You get to make somebody feel that their presence on this earth matters, and you get to create those moments. Do it in life. Make sure you live a life that makes you a better partner, a better daughter or son, a better parent, a better friend. Be driven every day by being the best version of yourself. And if you're lost, think of what a great Canadian is. They're right in front of you. You are a great Canadian, but sometimes we forget it because of what the world said. But come back to it. I had 2 weeks on my own. I could hear my daughter cry. I could see her through a glass door, but I couldn't touch her. And that's pretty hard for a mother who's just given birth. But I knew that I would be selfish if I reached out. It'd be selfish if I said, okay, well, we don't know, maybe. I had to do it for her, but I had to do it for myself. The second thing I learned was as an opportunity to learn more about me. And remember that team I told you about in 2012? A team that was inspired to go on and win a bronze medal for our country, but most importantly, created a bond that we said if we were 90 years old, we all joked we'd be in wheelchairs because we can't walk, and our bodies would be broken. We'd be able to look at each other across the road and say, I remember. That same team did a Zoom call for me when I was in my pit. Turned on, and there they were. Being my heroes, stepping up and showing up for me. But I realized how strong I was because of them. But I also realized the importance of that culture and environment that we created. That's what you have to create for yourself and for others. And I think the most important lesson I learned, and I'm sharing this with you today because we all have had to go through this pandemic. And we all have had our moments where we struggled. Some of us have lost people. Some of us have lost ourselves. I'm here to tell you today that in the midst of this, for everything that we go through, recognize that this uncomfortable is leading you to the greatness that will come. There is greatness beyond this. As you're uncomfortable, I can tell you, as you live in the pit, whether it's sport, whether it's life, just know, as when you get through this, the greatness that will follow is what is worth living for. And finally, I asked myself 3 questions. Driving in that car, there's a lot of things that go through your mind when you're holding your baby girl's hands and being like, I really wish I had more moments with you. And then those 2 weeks. But I ask you to answer this question today. I asked myself, did I live? I mean, like truly live, like laugh, cry, live life, have moments that you don't even want to take the picture because it takes away from the present that you see. Did I love? I mean, truly love, get my heart broken, doesn't matter, give more than I can receive. Did I truly love? And most importantly, did I matter? It's a big question. I can tell you that in the role that you are, you matter. But what are you doing with that? I know that few people here will go on to coach the next Olympian, but just about all of you will go on to shape a person's life. And that's what this week is about. Take this week, be inspired, take notes, but don't just use it and move on. Own it, live it, love it, make it matter. Because the work that's got into this is for you to rise, for you to step out of this and be like, you know what? I got more information. I'm more motivated than ever, and I'm going to matter more than ever. But most importantly, go out and be the best version of you. Go out and be the best Canadian, because you're surrounded by great people. But be your own hero. That's one thing I can say at the end of this. When my daughter asked me, and my new why is when my daughter actually says, Mommy, in 2020, what did you do? 2021, Mommy, what did you do? These have been 2 crazy years. A lot of things has happened, social injustices. I want to make sure that my voice and my actions mattered. My voice and my actions needed a better place for her. So sometimes I go towards uncomfortable conversations, and I challenge you too. Find your why. Live it every single day. And I'll just end it by saying, and be your own hero. Be your own hero today and every single day. So I think that's it. And I'm going to hand it back over to Ella. Yeah.
Thank you, Karina. I just want to say really quickly, the chat, people are fired up. They're loving your passion and your purpose, and they're loving it. So I really appreciate that. We do have time for some questions from the group. So while we're all listening intently, you can use that public session chat and start typing in some questions. I do have one for you that came up, and we'll start here. So at the beginning, you mentioned, when you were young, you told everybody that you wanted to be an Olympian. What did your coaches, your youth coaches, when you were younger, say or do when you used to tell them that was your dream?
I told it to everybody. I didn't even just tell it to coaches. It was in my classrooms. And they were supportive. They're like, you can be whatever you want to be. I mean, the only coach that didn't, ironically, is the one I highlighted today. But most importantly, and that's why I say coaches are the caretakers of a child's dream. Because if any other coach had said to me, no, I probably wouldn't be here today. So I'd say they were encouraging. They're like, yeah, you can go. I mean, I didn't even know what sport I wanted to do. My big Olympic moment was when Donovan Bailey won gold. And I remember his face and the expression in his eyes. And when we saw the flag rise, I cried the hardest cry. That was game changer for me. So again, I come back to the coaches, like basically understand the role you play and understand the importance of saying, yes, you can do it. I don't know if anybody just heard, Paris was just crying. So welcome to my home. This is her bedtime.
That's awesome. We got another question here for you. What is the biggest mistake you maybe saw in your life you see coaches make when they're trying to push athletes to the next level?
Biggest mistake, that's hard to just name one. I think to make it about winning and losing, oh my gosh. If you ask the athletes who went to the Olympic Games, if you ask the athletes who've been to World Cup, World Seals, championships, they'll say that they're still having fun. And I think coaches sometimes feel they have it, like, to be the elite level, and it has to be like every single day has to be like that. That's not the truth. You've got to make sure that whoever you're inspiring, first and foremost, is having fun. Now, I'm going to be honest, like when I'm doing fitness and stuff, I'm not like, yeah, this is the best thing in my life, but I'm inspired by something greater than that moment. And that's what was connected to our team. We were inspired by something bigger than ourselves. And for coaches, I think sometimes you make it about winning and losing, or maybe like, and I know there's a lot of coaches who are not in that world, so I'll give a different answer. But to the elite coaches, don't forget about the fun. And then to the rest of the coaches who are just in it to allow these kids to be the best version of themselves, remember that sport defines people. It defined me. I can tell you it's defined all my teammates. And part of that, as you shape this human being into the best version of themselves, is to check in and see who they are. You can't coach a team of 20 women the same way, especially in the aspect of women and young girls. 70% of the reason they're in sport is for the social aspect. Don't forget to coach them as human beings. Don't forget to coach them as their heroes, right? They may not be able to articulate that, but your role, literally. And I can tell you my coaches from U15, I can tell you my first coach. Because she helped me see who I was. She helped me find my voice. And I think that's so important. Like the biggest coaches in my life, I just talked about John Herdman. And I remember he said something when he did an interview. Somebody asked him what his legacy was. And he said that these 18 women would go on to do big things, be presidents, be head coaches. And it's funny, if you look at the team, our team has gone on to do a lot of things outside of the game that are big things. So remember, your legacy isn't, I don't even remember most of the wins or losses. And I'll tell you, the moment we actually stood on the podium and saw the flag rise, I cried the ugliest tears in the world. And I wish somebody would have said, cry gracefully, because in my hometown, there's like a life-size and like this. But I was crying because of the journey, the process, and my best friends were standing next to me and they were a part of that. I don't remember a lot of the wins and losses, but I remember the moments with them. And again, these were the same girls that took me through my most difficult moment in life. So just remember, it's not even about the wins or losses. It's about the people that you're creating.
Very inspiring. Again, the chat's fired up again, Karina. You're doing a wonderful job there. We have a question here, a little specific about thinking back to the game against the US. And was there something that John said? I know you mentioned that he didn't speak to you that evening, but is there something he and the staff did help you rally around? What did he say and do as a coach that inspired you all to do what you accomplished?
You know, one of the great things John Herdman did when he came in is he helped us understand that it was us that needed to be empowered and it was us that needed to rise. I mean, he rose too and he was empowered, but to that exact point of the video that I discussed that we saw and did, that reminded us of the why, the purpose, right? Obviously, John's an inspiring and motivational coach. I think anybody who's ever heard him speak, you'll walk away crying or feel you're ready to take on the world. That was always John. But in that moment, that video reminded us and it brought us back to our true north and why we were there. And it was incredible because, like I said, we were inspired by something bigger than ourselves, which was you. And you were the ones to come back and give us that inspiration. The job wasn't done. We hadn't let the country down. You were still supporting us. You still believed in us. And it was now time for us to believe in ourselves. And that's what we did. And it was because of you.
Awesome. We have a question here from Len. What would you say to athletes who want to serve the team above their dreams?
So if I'm understanding that, what would I say to athletes who put the team first?
I would assume so. Yeah. Len, if you want to clarify that in the chat, you can, but let's go with that and I'll let you know.
I mean, I would say this because I know for John and Len, please clarify. We had starters and finishers. This is how he put it. It wasn't starters and substitutes. It was starters and finishers. And when you're a finisher, because I know my role sometimes had been starters and sometimes my role was finisher, you see the importance of that. So immediately you're putting the team first. You know, I'm not going to sit on the bench and feel sorry for myself. I'm going to feel honored that I'm on this bench and I'm still representing this country. And because we had that vision clarity of that true north of who we wanted to be, no matter whether you were playing or you started on the bench, you know that you were going to be a great Canadian and you were still going to inspire because people are still watching you. So for me, I've had different roles. I've had roles where my job was to go out and produce on the field. And I've had roles where, and especially as a goalkeeper, when only one plays, I've had roles where I'm like, you know what? You're the one going out today. Erin McLeod and I battled for quite a long time. And then Steph Lave came. She's a goalkeeper now. We battled too. But we got to the point, and this is where it comes to putting the team first before ourselves, where we all wanted to play. But we said, you know what? We're going to put it to the coach's decision. And whoever he decides, you're the best person to represent the team. So me, I'm going to put the team first before my own ego. Because you know what? Me sitting here sulking is only going to detract from this team environment and culture. Me feeling here sitting feeling sorry for myself or listening maybe to social media who says that I should be playing, or maybe, you know, friends, they're like, this isn't fair, doesn't help. And I remember when we went to the Olympics, we said, this is a business trip. First Olympics again. We went to take pictures and we're like, oh my God, we're at the Olympics. And I took pictures with the great Kobe Bryant, Usain Bolt, hung out with Serena Williams. Yeah, I couldn't even tell you where those pictures are. I can tell you where the medal is. Because we went and we created a culture where it was team first. And I think as coaches, when you're looking at a team event, that's the environment you want. That's what you want to create. You want to create that true north culture where you're connected on something bigger than yourself all the time. not just when the camera's on or when you're in the team, but when you're off. But the reality is at that elite level, you also as a player need to have that outlet. But make sure that outlet isn't going to bring you back down. Make sure that outlet is just almost there to protect you and inspire you and keep you in line, rather than going to teammates, because that's how you rip the culture.
That was beautiful answer. Everyone in the chat thought that was a fantastic answer. So beautiful. We're going to go one more from Big Brown. Young girls drop out of sport at much higher rates compared to young boys. Based on your experience and now your role with CONCACAF, and you've got Paris and thinking about her future in sport, how can coaches help keep young girls in sport?
I think I mentioned it, and there's no simple answer to this, okay? It's a very complicated answer. I would say one of the biggest statistics, it does say that 70% of girls play the sport for the social aspect. So if you're in coaching and you're I just say this, don't forget that. As you're putting together your sessions, think of the social aspects. Think of the things that connect them. That's why I got into soccer. My friends were going. It wasn't like I was like, oh my God, I love soccer. I was a shy kid, focused on my studies. I did track, and my friends were going to soccer. So because they were doing that, I went into it. This is not a simple answer, but I would say as coaches, don't forget to pay attention to who that young girl is and who you are in their life. Because I would say in our region, again, 41 different countries, 41 realities. Coaches only know what they know. So if they've only seen the yelling and that's how, you have to factor that in. You have to factor in the culture. But instead, factor in who is in front of you. What have they been through? What will inspire and motivate them? And it takes a little bit of extra attention and care, but this is what you're in. As I said before, you're the caretakers of their dreams. That's the role you play. Own that. Love that. And make sure as you present yourself and you're figuring out, and again, we have such a range of different types of coaches in this conference, figure out your role in their life, because I'm a firm believer that not too many things happen through chance. My faith is strong, and I believe that God puts these people in your lives for a reason. So nurture it and own it. And don't be like how everyone else is. Like, and this is why it comes back to your why and your purpose. Figure out who you are in this discussion. Figure out who you are as a coach. Because sometimes you're taking all these things and you're like, okay, I'm going to do this. And you don't pause to be like, wait a second. Who am I coaching? And who am I to them? And how do I get the best out of them? Because again, I go back to our 2011, 2012 team. John got the best out of us by empowering us. And I think that's the one thing about coaches is figure out who these girls are. I assume whoever that, I'm sorry, I can't see because of the format, who asked that question, beautiful question, but just remember that, like, be their hero, because you never know the story that they've had before the practice. And they drop, especially at a certain age through puberty and whatnot, girls, their bodies are changing, the sports side, everything's changing, and they're getting pulled in by this world of everything. It's so easy to get pulled away from this if you're not guided and loving the place that you're in. So hopefully I've answered that question.
Yes, you did. And we'll wrap it up there. And just before we leave, I want to obviously thank everyone for attending. And day one of OCC21 is in the books for everyone. Our next session, From Culture to Content, an athlete-centered approach to optimize learning, takes place tomorrow at 12:30 p.m. We also want to remind everyone to be sure to check out the networking tab on the left menu there. You can start meeting new friends from across Canada. Send a private message, start a video call, or even start your own group discussion. So we want to again thank everyone for attending. We hope you all have a wonderful evening. The session was recorded. Don't worry, you will get a copy of it and can watch it later. And we'll see you all tomorrow on day 2 of the Ontario Coaches Conference. Take care, everyone.